Hi guys, we're starting Unit 2, which is our first aid unit. So today we're going to talk about bloodborne pathogens. So if you go to your slides that look like this, all right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So bloodborne pathogen is basically what we consider a disease or a germ that we find in our blood, okay? And it can be found in other types of fluids as well. But basically this is a germ that can get passed from one person to another, and it can be something as simple as passing on the flu virus, or it can be something as deadly as passing on HIV. Okay, so basically I want you guys to consider this. This is a germ, that microorganism that is found in the blood, okay, and it can cause disease and cause illness and even death, okay. Some of the fluids that we see as it relates to first aid, most of the time is blood, okay? But we also have what we call cerebrospinal fluid, which is hopefully not a fluid anybody ever comes in contact with, but it is a fluid that's found around our brain, okay? That kind of helps hold our brain in place. We have synovial fluid. We've seen that word before. That's joint fluid, okay? There's fluid in our joints that help us move. And then all other body fluids, sneezing, semen, urine, everything, okay, all body fluids. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how we come in contact with this kind of stuff, okay? And so this is going to be contact and transmission, okay? So there's four main types. The first one that we see is direct contact, all right? And it says infected body fluid from one person enters to another person. So if I cut myself and I am bleeding and I touch you, then my body fluid is going directly to you. Okay, and that's how we get direct contact. Okay, the second one that we see is indirect contact. So a person comes in contact with the fluid and not necessarily with the person. So my example that we see here is picking up a soil dressing. So if I have a gauze and I set it down on a table and you come along and you pick up the gauze, that's that indirect contact. Or if I sneeze and I touch the whiteboard, and then you come and you touch the whiteboard, that's indirect, all right? You didn't necessarily come in contact with me, the person who has the disease, but you came in contact with something that has touched that disease area, okay? The second one is kind of gross. The third one, respiratory droplet, okay? If I sneeze and you happen to be standing nearby and your mouth is open or your eyes, and that sneeze gets into you, okay? It kind of happens more often than you think. We did, last year I had a football player who had a bloody nose and went to kind of get the blood out, and he turned my direction and it actually got into my eye, okay? Very, very, very disgusting, but respiratory droplet, so that disease gets into your body through another open, like the nose, like the mouth, like your eyes, okay? And the last one that we see is vector-borne transmission, and these are going to be the insects, okay? I know right now Zika virus is a big thing going on. You have the virus in that mosquito or the tick or whatever kind of insect, and it bites you, okay? So you're not coming in contact with another person, but that you still have that disease passing from the insect to you, okay? So those are going to be our main four ways that we have these germs passing from one person to another, or one animal to another. Okay, keep in mind that in order for somebody to be contaminated, it has to get into your body, okay? And so this is where we see the word pathways, okay? Pathways is kind of an important word. If you sneeze on me and I am covered head to toe in a wetsuit, okay, and there's no skin showing, you can't see my eyes, you can't get to my face, there's no possible way that your sneeze is going to touch my skin. So I'm going to be perfectly healthy. If I have an open pathway, like my nose or my mouth or my eyes, or even an open wound on my hand, that is what we call that pathway, because you are exposed. You have an opening that's going to allow that disease to go into your body. Okay, so open pathways, there has to be an open pathway in order for a person to be contaminated. In athletics, we see this a lot, not only because we have our eyes and our nose and our mouth, but because of those open wounds. That's kind of the biggest way that we can get in trouble with diseases passing, because we have open wounds, even if it's something as small as like a pimple, okay, or shaving and you cut yourself shaving. Those are still open pathways that can cause contamination. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about a couple diseases. There are tons and tons and tons of things that can get transmitted from one person to the next, but we're going to hit three very important conditions, okay? So the first one that we're going to talk about is hepatitis B, okay? Now, hopefully some of you guys remember that you've gotten hepatitis shots as you've been going through school. Okay, but the first one that we see is hepatitis B. Now, hepatitis is a word that's pertaining to one particular part of your body. Okay, you see the word hepatitis, I-T-I-S right here, means that there's inflammation. Okay, so remember those five signs of inflammation that we just learned in the tissue healing. Okay, and hepat is talking about your liver. Okay, so hepatitis B virus is talking about inflammation of the liver, okay? And your liver is used to help filter things through your body, okay? It helps to try to get out some of the toxins that you're putting into your body. And with hepatitis B, we see that you can lose function of your liver. So if your liver stops working at optimal capacity, you end up potentially dying because your body can't get rid of all the bad things that's going in there. Okay, kind of a little a statistic that I have for you. It says 2 billion people worldwide have been infected by the virus, and that's quite a bit of people. And it says the hepatitis B virus is 50 to 100 times more infectious than HIV. So what that means is that it's easier spread. Okay, so some signs and symptoms that we see with people with hepatitis B is flu-like symptoms. So I think that's very interesting because everybody has flu-like symptoms at some point. Okay, and so such things as fatigue, being overly tired, muscle weakness is a big one, sickness to your stomach, fevers are going to be a big one. Okay, but just as many times as they have symptoms, it is possible that symptoms might not even present, meaning you have this condition and you don't even know it because you don't have the fever or the headaches and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of important to make sure that we're limiting the chance of this happening to us, because it does happen sometimes without any warning. Okay, an infected person's blood can test positive for hepatitis B within 2 to 6 weeks after intimate contact. Okay. Intimate contact is unprotected sex, okay? You get hepatitis B from having unprotected sex, from sharing needles, okay? You can also get this from just living in close quarters with somebody that has this disease, okay? There's a lot of ways that stuff like this can get passed, but please make sure that you are doing what you can to limit this from happening, okay? Prevention, going to be good personal hygiene, okay? Open wounds are covered, all right? Staying away from people that might have a condition. Don't share things, okay? Sharing is not caring when it comes to this kind of stuff, okay? And avoid high-risk activity, and that's the unprotected sex and the sharing of the needles, okay? Important facts to know. Okay, hepatitis B can survive for at least a week in dried blood. Okay, so again, I touch the board and my dry blood is on there. You come a week later and touch that board that has the dry blood on it, and you can still get that condition. All right, it's one of the only viruses that pretty much lives outside of its body. Okay, most of them, they'll die if they don't have a host, or if they don't have a body. So vaccines are also available for prevention. Okay, they do help this. Several of you guys will get this, especially if you work in the field with a lot of people. All right, so teacher, athletic trainers, doctors, nurses, most of you guys will all end up getting this vaccine just as a preventative measure. Okay, it's not 100%, but any of it will help. Okay, our next condition that we have is hepatitis C. Okay, so again, we still see the itis, and meaning inflammation, and hepat meaning the liver. Okay, so we're still dealing with the same type of the body. Okay, but just a little bit different virus. Okay, hepatitis C is acute and chronic. Okay, and remember from tissue that we see acute means that it is a new injury. All right, well, the opposite of that is chronic, and chronic is long-term, meaning people have this condition for months and years, and they can survive for a while, but then there will be a point that their body cannot hold up any longer. Okay, and this is again dealing with the liver. All right, a little stat: it is the most common chronic blood-borne infection in the U.S. Okay, so it is out there. Okay, I'm betting if you looked into it, you will know somebody that has had this condition. Okay, a fun fact for you is approximately 4 million Americans are infected, and about 8,000 to 10,000 die every year in America just because of this condition. Okay, so it's definitely not one that you want to play with. Okay, it is the #1 leading cause for a liver transplant. So that liver has shut down, and if you want to survive, you're going to need a new one. Okay, so that's most of the time why people have to get a liver transplant. A scary fact here is 80% of infected victims have no signs or symptoms. Okay, and that's huge. Okay, because people walk around and can have this condition and have no idea that they have it. Okay. We see jaundice a lot with hepatitis C, and what jaundice is the yellowing of the skin. We see this a lot of times in babies. Okay, sometimes babies that are born premature are jaundice. Okay, and they usually have to stay in the incubator underneath the lamp and maybe with their little sunshades on. All right, and what that's doing is just allowing that liver a little bit longer to fully develop. Okay, so people with jaundice is a big sign that they have a liver condition. All right, it might not necessarily be hepatitis C, but jaundice is associated with liver disease. Okay, other signs: pain in your abdomen, sometimes sickness to your stomach, lack of appetite. All right, but a big one is going to be dark urine. Okay, and that's because your liver's filtering things out, and when it's dark, it's not doing a good job of filtering, and so that stuff goes through your system. Okay, so big signs. Okay, another fact is the hepatitis C virus must attach to and infect liver cells in order to carry out this process. So if it doesn't ever make it to the liver, then you won't end up having this condition. Okay, if your body can get rid of it before it gets all the way to your liver, then you won't end up having this. All right, hepatitis C is not spread by sneezing or hugging or coughing or sharing the food. All right, that's what we call casual contact. All right, it is rarely spread through sexual contact. All right, but it can. All right, just like hepatitis B, though, limiting those kinds of unprotected sex, sharing food or drink is going to be the best way to keep this from happening. All right, most commonly this is spread from one person to another by sharing needles or syringes. Okay, and that doesn't necessarily always mean drugs either. Okay, that could be you have somebody that has diabetes and they have to give themselves insulin shots, and you accidentally get poked by the needle. Okay, and it does happen. So that has nothing to do with using drugs, and they can still pass that disease to somebody. Okay, there are medicines to help get rid of hepatitis C that work in about 8 out of 10 people, but it is just kind of a shot. All right, sometimes if it's caught later rather than sooner, then it will not help. Okay, there's no vaccine for helping to prevent. Okay, there